This thing on? The light's on. I guess we're live. I'm back. It's been a month and April is in the books. So I'm back with another market update. I'm calling it my one take market update. One take, hot take, 'cause it's going to be hot. And I'm calling it my one take market update because that's the way I like to make these things. I don't like to follow a script. I write some notes. I commit some stuff to memory. I jot down a few things. And I just like to shoot it all in one take and record the whole thing. And I use OBS software so I can transition different scenes and stuff here, but I don't do any editing or producing because that's really boring and I just can't. So I mean, if you do that, if you're into video production, I respect you. I respect what you do, but I just can't do it. So, anyways, if you don't remember, my name's Taylor King, and I represent Redline Real Estate Group. And I'm going to tell you what happened in April. April was pretty crazy. It was a record month. I think an all-time record month. And I'm going to do what I usually do, is I'm going to give you a sort of a summary of the entire real estate market in Calgary, and then I'm going to break it down into its separate property categories. So let's get started. So this is the overall trend for real estate in Calgary, and you got some pretty dramatic looking curves on there. So there are three things to note. The red bars, that is the sales volume, number of sales. The gray bars, that is the amount of sales inventory. And then that white line that's shooting up at the end there, that is the benchmark price. So it's not the average price. It's based on the housing price index. It's a composite. It represents the price of a typical home that would be sold in Calgary. And that's prepared by the Krebs chief economist. So if you look at April 2020, that sales number jumped up again over the previous month, March, which was already big. But if you look back over the last year, you look at April of last year. I've got 12 months on this chart. Pretty dismal, right? But if you'll recall, there was some sort of virus going around. I guess it still is, so I'm told. But there wasn't really any real estate activity happening in Calgary in April of last year. We were kind of locked down. It started to pick up in May, and then June and July it got really, really busy. And I had great months last summer as people started to come out of their houses and started to shop again, and sort of the demand had to catch up. And if you look now with today's numbers, those June and July and August and September numbers, which felt pretty big at the time after a couple of tough years, they were light compared to now. And also, I want you to make a note of the gap between the gray bar and the red bar, because that is supply versus demand. Gray is supply, red is sales or demand. So when you see a huge difference in those, the supply is a lot bigger than the demand. You've got a buyer's market. And as you can see, over the course of the year and into the first 4 months of 2021, that's completely flipped on its head, and it's gone from a buyer's market to a seller's market. Now, that's not the same across all different categories of homes in Calgary, which I'm going to show you, but the trend is pretty clear, and the price trend is pretty clear too. 576% increase in sales volume over the same period last year. So as crazy as that sounds, you have to consider that April last year was pretty terrible, right? It was about as bad as it gets. There was a pandemic. I guess there still is, but it was a different situation then, and nobody wanted to buy or sell. And that's just simply not the case now. As you can see, the inventory's gone up, the gray bar, but the sales have gone up to meet that increase in supply, and they're closing in still. That gap is narrowing still. Prices are up across the board. Sales volume is up across the board. Interesting to note the price increases. That doesn't always mean that individual homes are more expensive. It can also mean that more expensive homes are being sold and pulling up that average. And in fact, the share of homes above 600K in Calgary last month doubled over the same period last year. So more people are buying higher end homes now as well. So I'm going to start into the detached. Now, detached is what everybody wants to buy right now, and that's the hottest market. So as you can see in this graphic, where it says for sale, that's the inventory volume, 2,780, down a little bit from the same period last year. But sales up 503%, 2,046 detached homes sold in Calgary last month. And then new listings, 2,700 new listings went on the market in April, 2,000 of those sold. So the supply went up year over year, the new listings went up, but the sales went up twice as much. So it still leaves us in this seller's market. The average price way up, almost 595 grand, up 19% year over year. So if you bought in 2019 or the first quarter of 2020, you bought at the bottom, right? And things are really roaring back. Now, this was a record April, and more importantly, these numbers represent a full recovery in prices from 2014. If you recall, in our market, 2014 and early 2015, there was a peak, and then there was the oil crash, and things went downhill from there. And homeowners have had a rough ride the last 6 years as they've watched their equity dry up, and prices have gone down and down and down and down. Well, in a very short amount of time, we've gained all of that back. So we're back to like 2014 levels, which is really exciting if you're a homeowner. Days on market, that represents the average number of days a property is on the market before it is confirmed firm sold. Only 25. That's down 50% over last year. And consider that a lot of those sales are still conditional, and those condition periods are a week or two. So from the time a house goes on the market in Calgary, on average, till when it has a firm sale with all the conditions removed, only 25 days. That's fast. And sold price versus list price, that's up again. Now again, these percentages are year over year. So that's up over this time last year, April, which was terrible. But 98.7, still pretty strong. So that means on average, people are paying 98.7% of the sales price. You're going to hear a lot of stories of houses that went above ask. And that happens all the time. I've been in lots of those scenarios the last couple of months. But on average, people are getting 98.7% of what they ask for their house. And that's not what they originally asked necessarily either. If you price your house too high and you lower it 3 or 4 times, what it sells for is 98% of the last price you had on there, not the first price you had on there. So that's sold price versus list price of the list price, not the original list price. So detached, huge. This is where people want to live. They want to. The trend as far as lifestyles is to look for a detached home where you have a yard and maybe you have a home office you can work from, since everyone's working from home now, including me for the most part. And maybe you want a yard for the dog and a garage, that sort of thing. So detached is by far the strongest market right now. So a little more info on that, just to show you the trend over the last 12 months. And as you can see, you start back there, April 2020, lots of inventory and very few sales. You saw that go up over the summer, and then in the new year, it's just shot up. It's just gone ballistic. And as you can see, again, that price trending upwards too. And the gap between supply and sales, between inventory and sales, between the red bar and the gray bar, really narrow. So again, that is a seller's market. So if you're buying in this market, you're buying a detached, and I'm working with lots of people that are trying to buy a detached. It's a different game than it was a couple of years ago. Selling, that's going to be the easy part. Like say if you're upgrading or if you're downsizing, selling is going to be the easy part. If you're selling a detached house, it's going to go quick if it's set up properly. But buying is going to take some effort and some energy. So if you're a buyer looking for a detached home right now, you need to be ready to go. There's no browsing around. 2 years ago, you could take your time. You could spend a couple of months. You could look at 20 or 30 houses and be super picky and lowball somebody, go back and forth, and you had all the chips, right? As a buyer, that's not true anymore. The seller has all the chips. So if you're out there looking to buy a detached property, you got to be ready to go. You have to have your financing pre-approval, your down payment, everything ready to go. Because if you see something you like comes up that I email to you or shows up on the MLS or whatever, you're going to call me and we're going to go look at it now, like today. And if it shows well and you like it, you're going to write an offer tonight. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. And that's not because realtors are pushing people to make a decision. It's because sellers have the luxury of having multiple offers and having really low inventory, and a lot of people that want to buy a detached home. So if you see something you like, you don't have time to wait and think about it. Go look at it, but be ready, be prepared, have a good agent. I know a guy I can recommend who can do some digging, find lots of information on that place before you go, and be prepared to make a decision quick if you like it. So that's the market on detached homes. My next category is semi-detached, and this is really hot too. So if buyers in general wanted to be in a detached home, their second choice is probably a semi-detached. Because with a semi-detached, and what that means is a half a duplex, right? So one common wall, one party wall. Getting into one of these can allow you to get a better location for the same money. If you want to live inner city, your money's going to go a little further with a semi-detached. And it also is going to allow you to get a nicer home for your money. If you can live with having a party wall and a neighbor that's attached to you, then your dollars are going to go a little further. Inventory has been really dry on this. So if we look at the numbers, inventory is down almost 12%, 536 of these on the market. Sales up almost 400%. Again, keep in mind this is compared to April of 2020, which was a disaster. Okay, but even still, it's still up over last month, and it's still a record month. So 299 duplexes sold in April, and 433 were added to the market. So the new listings are up, but the sales are up almost twice as much. So again, we're in a seller's market on those properties too, and builders are scrambling to get more of this inventory online. And of course, there's lumber prices and supply shortages, and they're scrambling to try to meet the demand here. But people are buying these. Average price way up, $537,000. Now, if that seems really close to the detached price, that's a good observation, but consider the other thing that I told you, that it's not necessarily that all of the prices are coming up. It's also a factor of more expensive product that's selling. So the higher end semi-detached, like your inner city, South Calgary, Mission, those sort of areas, Altador, where there's a lot of really premium like luxury semi-detached that are 7, 8, 900 million bucks per side. More people are grabbing those because for the right person, they're going to get a lot more house for their money in that semi-detached. But that's a hot market too, right? Days on market, average of 36 days on market for those. Sold to list price ratio, 98.5%. Really hot product right now in the semi-detached. And just to expand on that a little bit, I'll show you the trend. We're seeing the same kind of thing. That gap has drastically closed between supply and demand. So puts us in a seller's market, and price is going up. Not as dramatically as the detached, but it's trending upwards pretty clearly, right? Huge gains in sales on this stuff. My next category is row homes. So row home meaning a townhouse. So if your best case scenario was a detached, your second choice maybe was an attached. Maybe your third choice would be a row home, where you have one or two party walls at most, right? And you probably have a separate entrance, your own entrance, and you might even have a garage on these. Inventory's up 10.8%, sales up 450%, 424 of those sold last month. New listings up 188%. Prices are up 11.23%, almost 330 grand is the average on those right now. 45 days on market, that's down. Sold prices versus list price, that is up as well. So almost 98%. And again, same thing. I'll expand on that with the trend lines here. Now you see there's not quite as narrow a gap between supply and sales on the row homes, but you can see the direction it's going, right? So we had a busy summer, what felt like a busy summer. It's just nothing compared to now. It's just madness right now. But prices are trending up. Inventory is trending up, but sales are trending up to match that inventory. So these come on the market in chunks, as developers, they put whole complexes up for sale and stuff. And that inventory moves sometimes more dramatically, the changes in it. But again, going in the right direction. And my last category is apartment. And I have a lot to say about apartments. I have some kind of pet theories and some ideas on apartments. Apartments, these are all positive numbers. So 1,810 apartments for sale in Calgary now. Just over 4 months supply. What's interesting now, the average price you can see is up 8.25%. 265,000 is the average price for an apartment in Calgary. What's interesting is if you break those figures down a little further, all those gains in pricing, they're all concentrated into inner city, downtown apartments. Whereas everywhere else in the city, everywhere that's not city center, prices are still pretty low. They still haven't moved much, and they're still way down from their previous highs. So they're down 17% from their previous highs. So if you're gonna buy an apartment, probably maybe you want that apartment lifestyle. There are fewer and fewer people now that want that apartment lifestyle because just that pandemic mindset in a virus that's spread through breathing doesn't really mix well with all that shared living space and elevators and lobbies and a couple hundred people in one apartment building funneling through one entrance. Those can be hotspots for virus spreading and stuff. So for obvious reasons, people have wanted to get out of that, and we see a lot of people selling their apartments, and so the market is still getting flooded with apartments. As you can see, new listings up 224%, 837 new listings. But the good news is sales are up too. So there's still over 4 months supply of apartments on the market right now, but it is trending in the right direction. Now, my sort of pet theory on this is that the apartment sales are going to lag the detached, semi-detached, and row. Excuse me. Again, this is a one-take hot take. I'm not going to edit my coughs out of there. So, Merry Christmas. Prices are improving a little bit. Again, concentrated the city center. But I think what we're going to see, you saw that dramatic trend line for prices on detached going up and semi-detached and to a lesser extent the row homes. What I'm sort of expecting to see if this continues is that those detached homes will price themselves out of reach for a lot of buyers. particularly first-time buyers. Because if you're a first-time buyer right now, um, you might still be able to afford a detached home. So a lot of those first-time buyers that would have been looking at an apartment condo 2 years ago, they're going, well, your apartment's you know 350, and your condo fee is $600. So for the same amount per month, I could get a mortgage for maybe a $450,000 house. And so they're buying entry level detached homes out in the suburbs, and they have a yard, and they can have a dog and that sort of thing. Um, so the only people that are going to buy an apartment right now, in my view, are those that want that lifestyle, that want that condo apartment lifestyle, that want to be in city center and close to everything. But with all the shutdowns and everything, what's the advantage of being downtown? You can't go to work. I mean, you're still working from home. All the bars are closed. You can't go dancing and take a $5 Uber home to your apartment. Um, so there's less and less appeal to that. That'll come back. That'll come back. I mean, I think probably towards the end of the summer, as vaccination rates are up, and um, we sort of put this pandemic in our rearview mirrors, I think more people will start leaning towards that lifestyle. But I think another thing's going to happen too, and that's what I started on, is that those detached and then semi-detached and then row homes, those will start to price themselves out of the market, and those first-time buyers are going to start looking back at apartments as their first property to own. So um, I guess to boil that all down, what I'm saying is now's a good time to buy apartments. They might not ever be this cheap again, not for the foreseeable future. So, if you bought a detached home a couple of years ago, or with that, 2019, 2020, you bought at the bottom, you're smiling now because you're seeing lots of gains in equity. And if you're a buyer right now and you feel like you missed the boat on detached, and they've, the houses you like have priced you out of the market, um, you could be enjoying some equity gains in the next few years if you get into an apartment now while they're cheap, just like those people that got into a detached while they're cheap. So something to think about. Still lots of apartments to choose from, and if you're a first-time buyer, it is a buyer's market. So you have all the cards. You can be picky. And when I tell my sellers that are selling an apartment, I tell them that, hey, buyers are picky. They might be going out and looking at 20 different apartments this weekend. So we got to make sure yours looks perfect, and then it leaves a good first impression, because they walk in that door, it smells funny, or it's dirty, or it's not staged nice or whatever. They just turn around and walk out because they got literally hundreds of others to choose from. Totally different situation from the detached homes right now, right? So something to think about. But if you're selling an apartment right now, sorry, it's tough going. But there is good news here. Things are trending in the right direction. It's just going to take some time. It's going to take, I think it's going to take a good 6 months before you start to see that apartment market heat up again. There's just not enough of a gap right now between a detached home and an apartment for the apartment to be really attractive to someone, unless they really wanted to live that lifestyle. Those people are out there. There's just not enough of them to buy 1,800 apartments in Calgary. So I hope you found that useful. That's my hot take for April. I'm going to do this again next month. Been crazy busy. I had a great month myself. Really appreciate all my clients that trust me to work with them. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I'd be happy to answer them. Have a great day.